Welcome to the Programmatic Digest podcast, y'all. Welcome. I am excited to talk to y'all today. It is the end of the year. This is the last podcast of 2021. Woo woo. I wanted to take a few minutes to sincerely Sincerely, thank you for being such a great supporter of the podcast. Today's conversation is going to be short, but I will talk about 2021 in review. We're going to highlight key takeaways from the podcast so far. We're going to talk about the challenges I went through. And then we're going to talk about some numbers because we are pitching for sponsorship. And so by the end of this pod, you will be aware of the podcast by numbers, the growth that we've experienced in 2021. You will be able to understand a few things. Yes, there is a potential sales pitch at the end of the podcast. So if you don't want to hear it, you should probably not listen to the pod. But I would encourage you to listen to it because then you have been listening for a while. So I would want to share the growth and the support and what your support have been doing with the transformation that's happened in 2021. And yes, we will talk about the programmatic meetup and some of the services I offer, but the goal of this podcast is to give you a different angle into what the Programmatic Digest podcast is really about. So during this pod, I'll be sharing some numbers. It's going to be a few numbers thrown at you, but if you are not following, that's okay. Just head over to the YouTube channel. I'll be sharing my screen for a few minutes just to actually give you a view into our podcast media host, like literally the podcast by the numbers, the amount of downloads we got so far, the per episode, things that you may want to know, like, hey, what does it take to start a podcast? And what are good numbers, what are bad numbers, right? So I'll go over some of that. Another thing that I'll go over is the growth and the journey. I'll share my journey. I'll tell you for real, what does it take? What does it take to be a podcaster nowadays? But yeah, so let's get into it. So thank you so much again for joining. I have this version on YouTube. Whenever I will start sharing my screen, I'll literally tell you I'm currently sharing my screen and this is what you're going to look at. So that if you are listening to the actual audio, you'll be able to refer to it during the videos or on our social media. So I'm Ellen Parker. If you don't know, if this is the first time you hear the podcast, welcome. I'm hella hyped to receive you, to just be part of the next 30 minutes with you. I am a programmatic media coach. What is that? It means that I work with agency partners and I get to help them become more efficient and I get to help them become happier, like for real. I come in working for agency partners, like I mentioned, and would love to work with brands as well. And so I come in, I assess, I do like a good QA, almost like when you hire business analysts and then they go through everything that might not be working well for you at the moment. And so I do the same thing specifically for the paid media department or the programmatic media department. And I assess things from operational workflow. What does that mean? It means like literally from the process of selling the client into onboarding the client into that final report, end of campaign report, of course, while managing and optimizing based on KPIs and performance. So I'll go through all this process and I assess the efficiency of things. And usually agency only 30% efficient. What does that really mean? And I'm only breaking it out to you so I can give you the perspective because we're all data driven here. So you understand what I mean by 30%. Okay. That means that out of 10 clients, only 3 have been really, really successfully onboarded or within, with the team not being frustrated because this email has this information and I have to go and fish this information from this different email. And then you have to go into SharePoint and share drive and the drive is not shared with everybody. Anyway, just to say, give you some examples. So if this is you, give me a call. Like, I can help you within 3 months. I can help implement. In the first month, we go through everything, of course. And then the second and third month, that's when we really implement the change. And the C word is not always welcome with the team. So I bring in tools from a human perspective. Okay, this is programmatic, yes, but I bring in tools that I've learned and I continue learning. Like I'm going to get certified in DEI next year. That's one of the goals, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But I'm bringing additional tools to just understand what really makes the team thrive. Retention is about a team that is challenged correctly. Yo, being challenged by your supervisor, by the workflow does not mean overwhelmed, does not mean stressful. Hello, that is not what I'm trying to say here. But challenge enough that you are pushed outside of your comfort zone in terms of like critical thinking, in terms of like, I've never done this before, this is scary, but let me try. We want to think um like FOMO. It goes back to the mindset of FOMO versus JOMO, like the joy of missing out versus the fear of missing out. So that's what I do with my agency partners. And I am using the podcast as a tool to continue serving this community, whether it's the agency level, whether it's the individual level. I just want to help y'all. Like there are options for you outside of your partners, your DSC partners, to be able to receive a non-biased opinion, a non-biased professional expert opinion. I've been working in this industry for 10 years and building a department for other agencies, like past agencies of mine. Like literally, I've always worked in a startup mode. For some reason, I don't know why I've always ended in startup mode. But then I realized that even if you're 10 years in, you're still struggling with some things. And I've come to assess the common denominator, provided tools and automation to help the agency address, so that the team spend less time fishing for things, the team spends less time looking, or there's a clear communication between sales, account management, ad ops, and the programmatic ninja, and the reporting and the creative. So all of this is addressed when I work with you, and we can do it between 3 to 6 months, depending on how flexible and how much and how disciplined we are in the process, of course. But yeah, so that's what I do. I just help clients become more efficient. That's all. And while we do that, I also make sure to have one-on-ones with programmatic ninjas to not only help them become more efficient from an operational workflow perspective, but also from looking from a campaign perspective. So I help them look at different provide that different pair of that different perspective, in terms of like, if you're usually optimizing this way, have you thought about this? Oh, you know what, I have this template that can help you automate year to date, month to date, week over week. Very often, like, and this is a simple thing that comes up very often with the agency that I work with, that those people are really smart. Like everybody I worked with are even smarter than I am. All they need is somebody to let them know, like, yo, you know what you're doing. You the shit. You got this. Let's look at this different angle. What do you think? Okay, how do we implement it? Have you implemented it? Are you still implementing such thing? Something as easy as like week over week percentage. Something as easy as when you look at it, looking at data, are you answering those three questions? What happened? So what? And then what? So what happened when you're looking at the data? What happened with this data? Is it a drop, a decrease week over week, month over month, depending on what you're looking at? Is it outstanding performance? What happened? So what does that mean for the client? So what we have this change. The so what should always answer the next part after talking about the data and the metrics and all that jazz, is really the so what question. You have to answer, now that we know that the data have performed this way, this is why it is important. So what? And then what? So now that we know this performance, now that we know why it's important, or that, I call it so what, but it's almost like a why is it important for us, and what happened for real. What are we going to do with that information? Well, we're going to go ahead and implement these next steps, or we're just going to go ahead and monitor, especially from a week performance perspective. Sometimes you just want to monitor to make sure you have like at least 2 to 3 weeks to make intelligent data driven decision. But sometimes you have to make those decisions on the week to week. So those are just the different, like these were just example I wanted to throw here in my introduction about what I do, to clarify that I offer consulting, yes, but my day-to-day, what makes me happy is to be able to be part of a team that is really trying to spend less time in front of a computer and more time with their family, period. Like, what we do does not define who we are, and that's it. If you're a supervisor listening to this, like, oh wow, yeah, well, this is what it is. This is just a phase of your life, and I'm just trying to make sure that this phase of your life is as smooth as it can be, and it can be stressless, it can be less overwhelming. We can fight the B word, the burnout phase that we're going through. We are like leaders, we will have to invest in our people. But anyway, so 10 minutes in and I've been ranting. Actually, it's not a rant. I think it's very important that you understand why I continue to have this podcast. Not most podcasts are done within 2 years. We're going on three. If you're on YouTube, you saw that I pointed out two instead of three when I said three. But 3 years now of just greatness. So let's talk about some of the key takeaways from this past year. What we really implemented has been consistency from episode publishing. Every single week we published a new episode, and it's shown in the growth. So I'm about to show you the media host in a few seconds here. What I've also learned to do is delegating. I hired a podcast planner, I hired a podcast management team, and I went through a few of them, to be honest. Like, I'm on my third one in 2021, not because, it's just as working. The first one has been outstanding. Her name is Valerie, and you can find her on social media with Podcast Planner. And I'll make sure to add exactly her information in the show notes. But when I started working with her, I started in late 2020 and into early 2021. So I hired her, and during that first quarter, she was pre-editing episodes for February on, and I realized that I could not afford her service just yet. But thanks to her, she has really taught me what was needed and what the investment that came with the podcast planning management, because I used to edit everything, y'all. I'm sure you've noticed the difference in some of some of the audio quality from when I used to edit to now, to 2021 at least. Just refer to 2021 and to the latest episode. We are as good as the latest episode come out, right? So I went through a few. So delegating was something, one of the key takeaway, and I'm sharing this because I think in our business, whether you're a business owner, whether you are in the advertising and marketing world, you have to be a content creator. And I realized that very soon, like back in 2015, I started a blog and never was consistent. I realized that I didn't like writing. Now I love writing, okay? And I'm planning on writing a few things, ebook. I have a book. I'm working on a book right now. And then I'm working on a course that's coming out in February 2022. Stay tuned for that as well. But now I love writing. But like back in 2015, when as I was still in a junior strategist, a junior programmatic ninja, I just didn't like it. So fast forward, I wish I would have started. I wish I would have been consistent, because I would have been in a different place. But all things happen for a reason. This is this season where I needed to understand and discover and really look at the different opportunities in front of me. So this is what happened. So back to the key takeaways. Consistency was very important, and it really, really resulted in a growth month over month. Delegating and also being purpose driven. Like, I am still on the journey to live within my purpose, and I don't do anything just by accident. It is very mindful, and I think that everything that has happened so far has happened for the reason, in the right moment, in that season. Even if I was not ready, or even if I wanted to happen maybe sooner, um I think it happened at the right time. Now that I look back, I was not ready. So let's look at the podcast by the numbers on Libsyn. So for those listening, I strongly encourage that you go ahead and look at, how do I do this, at our YouTube channel. So there you go. So this is much, much, much better. So what I mean by consistency is that month over month. So right now, this is Libsyn. It's the podcast media host that I'm using to publish the podcast across different media, right? Across Apple, Spotify, you name it. And so this is the view that they have. In 2022, one of the goals is to update the media host with a little bit deeper and more data driven media host. Like, I want to be able to understand, like, okay, if I had 96 downloads, does that mean that people listen 100%? Is that after maybe 50%, then it counts, it doesn't count the rest, so unfortunately I don't have that much transparency in terms of what a download is in Libsyn. Well, there's a definition, but again, it doesn't tell me exactly what it is. And so this is being recorded literally a week before it's going to go live. So the week of Christmas, let's say. So I'm going to pull 2021. I mean, we can pull from January 2021, but you'll see that there was nothing in January 2021. So this graph right here, let me make sure I make it a little bit bigger for my eyeballs and yours. Click to change view. Oh wow, I don't think I've ever seen that. Okay, so this is downloads per day. Let's do per week. Okay. Oh crap! It went back. Sorry guys. Let me just do this one more time. There you go. Run. Okay. Now I just pulled monthly downloads per month from 2021. And so in January we launched. Oh, I did have a podcast launch in January. I thought I started in February, but January was we started this year. So January, something about it wasn't January 1st, it was the end of January. So we had 189 for the month, but I want you to remember that one was probably a week or two in January, so it wasn't a full month. So I'm going to start from February, which was a full month, 353 downloads for the month, and then it grew to 782 in March. I have to remember to let you know that this growth is 100 attributed to Valerie, the podcast planner, because she is the one that came in as a strategist. And then around March and April, she realized her worth and her value, and she increased her price. At that time, I wasn't ready to do so. But now I have a videographer and an audio editor, and then I have a separate social media manager that also handles the podcast stuff. So the podcast management, sorry. So thanks to Valerie, shout out to you. Her information will be in the show notes. And so there it is. So we went from March to 782 downloads, but fast forward to July was one of the first time I've ever peaked through the 1,000 downloads a month, y'all. July was lit, and it was July. I remember we're all repost. Was it July? Yeah, it was like mid-July to mid-August were all reposts from live that I was doing for a whole week, if you remember correctly. And so those were just repurposed content, because then in August I did go on a vacation, and then from July to August, you notice a dip. We went from 700, almost 800 downloads a month to almost $1,000 a month to 789. So almost 800 downloads a month. So there was a decrease. But I think this decrease was because everybody else was on vacation just like me, and nobody had a moment to listen to the podcast. No, for real. I strongly think this is it. So in 2022, we'll make sure that in August, we probably increase promotions, or maybe it will be only repurpose information, since the downloads will already be dropped. I don't know. I need a strategist to help me with this next year. But I think that's why it dropped down, because like in September, it automatically went back to 956. And in October, November, it's been above the 1,200 marks. And then right now in December, we're at 500. So I'm going to project that December will probably come close to 1,000 downloads, or maybe shy of a little bit shy from 1,000 downloads a month. And I'm going to attribute that to the holiday, because people were busy. It's hard to take 30 minutes to focus on a podcast. And I haven't even been very, very mindful of the podcasts I've listened to. So when you first log into the total downloads, unique downloads, are 13,000 downloads. And on average, each podcast get about close to like maybe 100 to I'm going to say 200 to 400 downloads a month per episode, I'm going to say. No, I'm sorry, 100 to 200 per unique episodes. But the crazy thing is that, like, for instance, 55 Idem Heimlich episode that was recorded in October is still getting some downloads up to 2 months later. So it was 148, and then 40 and 19. And this continues up to 6 months. Sometime I will get to, I wonder if I can go to the second page and show y'all my theory here. Okay, because it's all about transparency. So some of this, so this was early. Okay, so this one was released. So the tips on keeping teams engaged while remote with Brian Dolan from Work Reduce was recorded late September, and all the way until December, he's still getting some listens. Even though it's lower, it's still some listens. So that's why, for sponsorship that are potential sponsorship listening, I just want to highlight that this is a longevity. It's for longevity. It's beyond the podcast month, like literally up to 3 to 4 months after. Oops, excuse me. And even over here, streaming video content with Gabriel, that was back in August. Again, those were all back in August. Solomar, Tyler Bryant was back in like late August, early December. Oh wait, this one has been canceled. It was an accident. Sorry. See, the 49 is over here. So 33 to 20. But anyway, so the podcast has been doing really, really well. These numbers continues to increase, and then across the world, we are doing pretty well. I'm gonna move into the media, the podcast kit. I made a podcast kit. See, boom. So for you listening, total number, like looking at the podcast by the stats, are basically 200 to 300 per episode downloads, not per week, per episode downloads. And the downloads can continue up to 4 months. We had, oh my gosh, it says right here that we had a total downloads of 10,000. I must have literally done this, a month ago, and we're already at a total downloads of 13,000. And then I add Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn numbers as well, because if you're sponsoring the podcast, you automatically gain visibility on my following. So I'm not only selling the podcast sponsorship, I'm selling my digital real estate, access to my digital real estate. I have 17,000 followers on Instagram, growing. Actually, we're close to 19 now, so close to 2,000 followers. Twitter, close to 633, and LinkedIn followers are 3,500, but that's the 500 mix from the LinkedIn profile, like the podcast profile on LinkedIn, and my profile. So I have close to like 3,000 followers, and my engagement post, I think, gets between 700 to 4 or 5,000 post views on my post on LinkedIn. So you'll be able to gain visibility from like a weekly post, depending on what you pay for, right? But like the standard package is like a weekly sponsored post on the Instagram. I mean, on Instagram, on my Twitter, via my LinkedIn profile. And then, of course, maybe, I don't know, 30 to 2 minutes ad, like an ad in the middle of the podcast or at the beginning of the podcast, depending. So that's like the standard podcast. And most of our listeners, you can't really see the numbers even on the YouTube sharing here. So for my fellow audio listeners, thank you so much. Like household income, most of them are $250,000 or more from a household income. And our lowest household incomes was like 40 to 50K. So it's pretty spread out ethnicity wise. The majority of our listeners are, I'm going to say, Western European, so white probably, and then come Southeast Asians, and then Mediterranean, and then African American are the lower percentage. So my goal is to increase the diversity of my listeners. And then this source here is not from Libsyn. It is the audience source is from chartable.com. So one of the goals and one of the strategies we're going to focus on next year is to focus on like increasing our diverse listeners. Like I'm Black, I'm from West Africa. Like I should be reaching out and providing content that is going to be relevant for them. So I'm going to be highlighting a little bit more of diversity on the podcast again, and then including even from a guest perspective. And of course, age 25 to 34 seems to be a number here that is very popular. And then the second popular age group is 55 to 64, y'all. So shout out to you all for listening. Thank you so much for for listening to the podcast. And our listeners in the world, of course, 53% or 54 now percent of my listeners are in the US, and then another 13% from the UK, Northern Ireland, and then we have like 5% from Poland, and another one from Canada, and then Spain, and then anywhere from Australia, France, Germany, India, Russian, Slovenia, Singapore, and Philippines and Sweden. So all of those are lower numbers though, but I thought it was really, really cool. So what are people saying about the podcast? This is the last three reviews that I pulled from Apple's, and this is for my listeners here. I'm just showing the media kit because I went through some research recently and I put it on the kit, and so it's like I'm presenting you the final report. So some of the podcast reviews are actually really cool. It warms my heart. Like I've enjoyed a couple shows recently, and especially appreciate the show on Cookieless Future. The question, we're mindful of what the future holds for all parts of the MarTech and AdTech ecosystem, which elicitate better answers. Looking forward to future episode. And this is from T Rose Nas via Apple Podcasts, and that was that was from May. That was one of I think this was one of the very first reviews I received. No, maybe not the very first, but maybe I can't remember. I randomly selected some of them. You're right. So at first I wanted to see the last three, and then I randomly selected some from each year. What was I saying? So yeah, so take a listen to some of the podcast stuff that we were talking about, and it comes to bring me to the last thing I wanted to talk about the podcast is the fact that we are committing. I am committing as a host of the Programmatic Digest podcast. I'm committing to donating 10% of all sponsorship to a different nonprofit each quarter. This quarter, the Q1 2021, is going to Plaza Volunteer Rescue Squad in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Woo, woo. The way I came across this nonprofit is that EMS, like emergency, is it emergency medicine services? I can't remember what the M stand for. But those are the people that come through in the ambulance when you call 911. They're one of the first people out there for you. And so they're 100% volunteers, and volunteers help the Virginia Beach City save over $5 million a year, I think. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the five number. I don't know if it's billion or million, which is a big difference. I know, I should have remembered that. But they basically are saving the city beaucoup money because of the volunteering system, and they get trained for free. They volunteer their hours. So we're going to donate 10% of all sponsorship every month. For the first quarter, and then the second quarter we'll move on to a different cause or different nonprofit. But you have two QR code right now showing on the screen. One is to learn more, and it goes straight to their Facebook page. They're very active on Facebook. I strongly recommend you spend some time on there. And the second one goes straight to their PayPal to donate. Like I said, they're 1,000% volunteers, and they all get trained, and so it helps the city. So shout out to you. And of course, you're listening from probably another city, Texas and Florida, and you're saying, well, we have this too. So I strongly recommend that you do the same. Maybe you reach out to the rescue squad in your city or the volunteers in your city, just to help them a little bit. But this is the year of the theme for the podcast in 2022 is impact and growth. We're going to grow together. We're going to make impact. We're going to have impact. We're going to create impact, and we're going to serve y'all. We are going to serve. We're going to go be above and beyond, because we are bigger than ourselves. And sometimes you just got to get out there. You got to help people, help others. So this is part of what I wanted to show you. And then also I see that I have like my LinkedIn open over here. This is my personal LinkedIn profile. How do I, so 773 profile viewers in past 90 days. So what, maybe every 250 to 300 viewers on my profile. From a monthly perspective. So that's pretty significant. So like I said, if you're a sponsor, that is the type of visibility you may reach. Let me see, all profile viewers. Okay, so I don't remember, not sure what these are actually. LinkedIn profile. Anyway, okay, so and then the next thing I wanted to show you was this is the Programmatic Digest podcast LinkedIn profile. Most people, are 42% of people that interact, right, or visit the page rather. So this is visitors. So visit the page are in a marketing role, like job function is marketing, and then 21% is business development, and then another 10% is PM, like project management, and another 10% is sales, and then it goes down to different, like community and social service, finance, human resources, information technology at a lower scale. Oh, this is one visitor. Okay, gotcha. So this is pretty cool to understand who is interested, and this is in the last 2 weeks actually. Let me pull for the last 12 months. Sorry about that. Okay, so the last 12-month marketing and business development are like almost rivaled. So 28% of the visitors of the profile page, or I guess to any views, right? If you're visiting the page, you're more likely have come across content, and you've clicked through the content. I would imagine that's the consumer journey there. So 28% of those people are have a marketing job function, and the other one is business development, which is perfect because those are the targeted market. Anyone in media and communication is another 8%, and then it's fizzle down to sales, IT, operation, et cetera, et cetera. So this is great data. And as you can see, like the year over year, the growth, like we went from, what was that calculated? So based on the Libsyn growth, we've recorded an increase in yearly downloads of over 250%. Girl, right? And we continue to record a monthly increase ranging between 20% to 40% month over month. So no matter what, we go up and down, we see up and down. And so like I said, even though, what was it, September, October, November, we had strong downloads, like 1,000 and above, if I remember correctly. December, we might be below 1,000, but it will be really close to it, coming really shy to it. But that's okay. That's how it goes, ebb and flows. And then there's a lot of things that comes into play. It's not so much the guests or the content. It could be the content. If there is a drastic drop, I believe it would be related to content and maybe how the promotion happened that month. But I think it's like all seasonality. Like I said, in August, most people just were on vacation. Why would you listen to a work podcast on vacation? I feel you. I didn't listen to my own podcast in August. Well, for at least the 2 first weeks, okay? So this is part of the things I wanted to really go over and show you that we have so much exciting things to come in the next year, right? I launched the podcast for selfish reason, and I'll end in a few minutes just to be respectful of your time. So we're coming to an end here, but so since I like to ask the few questions to my guests, I'm going to ask it to myself, and I'm going to tell you, some of the questions that I like to ask is, what are 3 fun facts about the guest? So I'm going to tell you 3 fun facts about myself. The first fun fact will be that I am, dang, now I understand why I guess I'm thinking about it. I thought I was prepared. The first fun fact is that I understand 4 languages. I speak 2 very well, and I know how to write 2 of them very well, which is French and English. I believe I know, not I believe, I know I write French and English very well, and I understand them and I can communicate back. The other two, I don't know how to write them. One of them is my native, another native language, which is native to Cape Verde, which is where my origins are from. Cape Verde Islands in West Africa. We were colonized by Portugal, so that's why we speak like a Portuguese Creole. It's like a mixed Portuguese and African descent language, I would say. So I understand that maybe up to 60, 70%. I don't practice it every day. I should, though. I will. And the last one I want to mention is Wolof, which is very, very native to Senegal. Senegal has a few of other dialect, like native dialect in the country. Wolof is like, I would say maybe Wolof is the most spoken, and then there's a few others, but I think Wolof is well spoken across the nation. So I don't know how to write it. Wolof is actually a mix of, I would say, African descent language in Arabic. So we have similar terms as the Arabic language. So for instance, we say salam alaikum, we say we say inshallah, we say alhamdulillah, which is very, very Arabic slash Muslim influence. Like I think 90% of the country is Muslim. That's why we love our Muslim brothers and sisters, and we live harmoniously very well. So that's the first fun fact about myself. Actually, I'll only say one fact. Fun fact, since we're coming at the time. The other things I I'm gonna start talking about is, and this is just like to let you know what to come up front. Like we're going to continue working with the Women in Programmatic Network. So once a quarter, we'll have a live panel. Once a quarter, we'll also have live panels like I did in November. So check out the November's panels on YouTube and on all major podcast platform, and let me know your feedback. Was it fun? Was it easy to go back and forth between panelists, especially from an audio perspective, right? Because you don't get to see when we come in and out to a special guest. And then the Women in the Programmatic Network is a programmatic network I came across. I'm big on communities. I know you know that. And they are so amazing. So reach out to them if you need any information, or reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with whoever. And lastly, I'm thinking about doing a first in-person event in fall. Starts in October. So in fall 2022, it will be in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we are headquartered. So it's not going to be in New York or California, y'all. Y'all going to have to come to us. So stay tuned on that. I think you're going to be very satisfied with what I have in the planning there. And we're going to speak into existence. It's going to be a day or two type of thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very podcast related. Of course, we'll have live panels. Oh man, I'm excited about that. I'm still in planning mode. I still have to figure out the mission for doing so, bringing the podcast together. And yeah, and just so you know, traveling to Raleigh, North Carolina is much more affordable, cost efficient, and and time efficient to compared to like in New York or California or Miami. Not throwing shade, y'all. I'm just stating a fact. So it's factual. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this was helpful. I had a lot of fun letting you know about 2021. It's been quite a year of, like I said, discovering what I really want to do, how to be truly authentic to myself. I'm still going through the journey because I tend to revert back to code switching sometimes. I know some of you can tell the part that, like, for certain interview, I've reached, like, some people reached out to me saying, "Hey, you okay?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know you, and you're really concerned about my well-being. Thank you so much for being a support." So that just goes to show that you can do that anytime you want. You can reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. And on LinkedIn, I would say those two. And TikTok is coming to you soon as well. So shout out to TikTok. But yeah, so key takeaways: consistency, delegating, and purpose driven for 2021. Some of the challenges: branding, internal processes, and follow up on internal processes. And then, of course, we looked at the podcast by the numbers. We are currently averaging, the last quarter average 1,100 downloads a month from an average perspective. And we're projected to start averaging 15 to 1,700 downloads in Q1 of 2022 because of everything that we're going to push for. And then lastly, if just be yourself, be authentic. Happy New Year. Use this next year not just to, every day go into 2022 as if every day is January 1st. Why? Because when it's January 1st, you're like, new me, new you, new shirts, new car, who this, new year. Like, no. If you go in with the mindset that every day next year is January 1st, you're going to feel motivated, you're going to be staying dedicated. And I'm a big believer in affirmation and mindset building. So make sure you write down that goal so that by mid-year next year, you can look at it and be like, oh, I'm very far from it. Or no, actually, I tripled my goal. I can have another more challenging goal. So write down a few goals. You ain't got to do it all. If you want to do it all, that's fun. I like doing vision boards, but if you want to do it all, or don't. But make sure you write down 3 or 4 personal goals and 3 or 4 professional goals, and make sure you write down 2 or 4 community goal. What are you going to do for that community of yours? Whether it's church, whether it's just the programmatic meetup, or whether it's your neighborhood, whether it's just you volunteer once a month. Like, what are you going to do to pay back your community with your time, with maybe money if you want to, with your skill set even. I know that you can even teach your skill set for free. And I encourage you to become a content creator, y'all. You got to be a content creator. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. I can attest for it. You've seen the growth. Go back and listen to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Shout out to those guests because they were ride or die for doing this, knowing that I was just starting. Like, you'll see the difference in even like my energy to like the latest episode that just came out, which was Ali Manning last week before Christmas, which, oh my gosh, it's such a setting the bar really high. Ali was outstanding. So go live your best life. Thank you for joining us. I'll end with the programmatic meetup. We're always looking for more. The goal is to grow from 3. We have a solid 3 members. And in the spirit of being transparent, I'm sharing with you. I'm not afraid. Yes, I was hoping to get to at least 10 by the end of 2021, but I missed the goal. And that's okay. It's okay to realize that I missed the goal. Now I'm back to assess why did I miss the goal? Because this is great. This is a great mission. This vision is amazing. Like, I'm bringing people together to be truly themselves. It could have been the pricing point. So I reduced to $75 for a holiday increase, and people have looked at the website a little bit more. They've gone all the way to the payment page, but hasn't gone through. So again, there could be a lot of things. Another thing was promotion. I did not talk enough about programmatic meetup. So you're going to hear a lot about it in 2022. You're going to hear a lot about it until I meet my goal and beyond the goal. So let me ask you this question, okay? Let me ask you this question, and I'll end with this. I promise. I know I've been saying this for a while, child, but I'll end with this. Do you feel like you have a handle on campaign performance or deadlines? Are you satisfied with your work-life balance? Are you receiving true and genuine support from your supervisor? Do you feel like you could use a second pair of eyes to maybe go over things with you, either in details or just providing that constructive and encouraging support? If you said 3 no's and 1 yes, the community is for you. If you've answered 3 no's and 1 yes, the community is for you. Join the programmatic meetup. We're now meeting weekly, not bi-weekly. We're meeting weekly, y'all. You get to have me for an hour every Friday from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's GMT -5 in winter and GMT -4 in summer. Okay, so the community is here for you. Here are a few questions that came up like this past quarter that I can just remember. I actually wrote an article about this particular topic, but it was like what to look at when implementing brand safety restrictions. And during this session, we talked about brand safety, particularly like, oh, I have all those pre-bid, the pre-bid filters, but viewability metric is still here. And I feel like I'm still showing up on really weird sites. Like, how do I look at the data and make sure that I'm actually implementing what I'm learning? Because power is not, I mean, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power, okay? Get it right. Get it right. Think about it. Applied knowledge is power. You can learn like this all you want, but are you implementing and executing on it? In the meetup, we get to be accountability partners. We get to execute. We get to challenge ourselves to be better. Literally, last call, I was telling them that, oh, I haven't been outside in like 2 to 3 days, and I actually missed a couple of my workouts. And they literally challenged me, like, yo, you need to go take a 30-minute walk. It's 75 degrees. You actually have no excuse. I bet. So I went. I felt so great. And I've been walking since then, except the last 2 days. I have been working out, but the last 2 days it's been 30 degrees outside, honey. I'm still from Africa, okay? Like, we can't do this weather out there. It's too much. Okay, so other question that came up. Oh, there's been a few questions where somebody was doing a strategy or planning, and then a vendor reached out to them. Any type of vendor, whether it's SSP, whether it's inventory based, whether it's creative based, any type of vendor, right? And but for this particular question is like, does anyone work with X vendor, and how have you been your experience? How do you use X vendor for your strategy? What are some of the outcomes? Did it resulted well? How we're, things like that. It's still general. We go into enough details so that we can help answer and curate an intelligent answer to their questions without giving it all, right? And another one was like, how do I understand the consumer journey based on first party data? And this question was specifically about how to use like website traffic into a legit remarketing strategy, because during those sessions or during that month, we talked about third party deprecation, and then any third party like identity solutions. And so part of some of the question was like, my brand that I'm representing is pretty healthy in terms of the amount of website traffic that we get on the website, but like, how do I utilize this intelligently and and into our strategy? Because that particular brand that I'm referring to is consent is consent driven, so it's not like, it's legit. It's like what we want to be doing, right? And literally that's the type of question we ask, what can I do with my brand? And some of the answers were genius, like, hey, go ahead and diversify, period. Like, try to start implementing different pixels, or if you're using GTM, start to set up different audiences. Can you set up a form abandoner? For this particular client, it was B2B, B2B campaign, strategy related. Sorry, I had to spit that one out. And so we just talked about, can you do a form abandoner? Is there anything specific that you want to do? There is a find a provider page. There is a form submission. There is a contact page. Can you do that? Can you just let it sit? And then a couple months later, can you go ahead and implement your first lookalike modeling? They were using the Trade Desk, which is an excellent platform. The Trade Desk with DV360, I can't remember. But anyway, so those are the type of question that comes up on the meetup. And the first 30 seconds, I come in with a lesson for the session, like my friend Oye says, but particularly based on the theme of the month. And so in January, the theme of the month is probably going to be safety, since a lot of brand safety, since a lot of question from the team and the community has been like around that particular topic. But in February, we're talking about career growth. I won't have recruiters, but I'm going to have people that have a great career journey to come and talk to the community about like their tips. Like, this is what you want to do by the end of the year. If you want to be in this stage of your career, you might want to look into implementing these, or these are tips to grow. You might want to accentuate this training, et cetera, et cetera. So the programmatic meetup, y'all, it's the bomb.com. I'm having so much fun with that team. I call them team because they're like team. Like, we get to talk once a week, and we're having fun, and we're being honest, and we had some very deep conversation about life sometimes. Okay. So I encourage you to join. Like I said, if you said 3 no's and 1 yes to any of the questions that I asked, this is for you. I am giving you your free call. I mean, your first call for free. Your first call for free. You heard it here first. Come try it for one time. And if you don't like it, cool. You won't even have to sign up first. You just have to DM me, and then I invite you on the Zoom call. It's very, very, very low key like that, and then you get to try it. You get to try it for real. Like this is great. I'm very grateful and thankful for this opportunity to even be in front of a camera and have a microphone and live in a healthy and like in a health environment all the way through, from physical, mental to spiritual health. I thank you. I want to wish you all the blessings in the world. Like my niece, one of my little nieces used to say, she used to say, may baby Jesus bless you with all of the wishes that you need and want for this season. So I'm Catholic. That's why I'm wishing a Merry Christmas. But if you're not, happy holidays. If you don't celebrate, I celebrate you from a human being perspective, not from what you do, but from who you are. I want to let you know that you are supported, you're loved, you're appreciated. If you had a tough year in 2021, 2022 will be better. You will be in control of things. And sometimes it goes beyond our own selves. Sometimes we just need to reach out and ask for help, and that's okay. We don't know it all. Even I've been 10 years in the industry, and sometimes they say something in a meetup and I'm like, what? For real? This is what's happening? Wait, hold up. Let me Google. Oh wow, this is for real. This is something happening in our industry right now, and I had no idea, because I don't claim to know it all. I'm learning with you, and as I'm learning, I'm sharing. I gotta share. So go share. Go share what you're learning. Chris Doe said, if you want to learn something, teach it. But also, I think there's a quote that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I thank you. I love you. This is it. I'm gonna shut up like right now, because I'm so grateful that I can keep talking. But have a happy holiday. 2022 is gonna be the bomb that come. In next week's episode, we have Sonia from let me see where what company she is from. This is terrible. I just talked to her a few minutes ago. Well, I talked to her last week, brother. But Sonia, Sonia was another beast. Like we talked about SPO, supply path optimization, Triple Lift. Sorry, Sonia from Triple Lift. This is next week's episode. We talked about SPO and DEI. So the name of the episode is like, what do SPO and DEI have in common? Sonia was so amazing. We talked about what Triple Lift is currently doing and their projection for next year. But also, I really highlighted, and again, that's what I'm going back to what I was saying earlier in terms of highlighting diversity a little bit more in our guests. Sonia is like her leadership and her team have affected over 98% of Triple Lift's revenue, and includes representation from LGBTQIA, Black, Asian, and first generation immigrant communities. So shout out to Sonia. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and you have a wonderful and wonderful year. I know this is corny, but see you next year, y'all. Bye, everybody.